Welcome to the Global News Podcast from the BBC World Service. I'm Valerie Sanderson, and with me is our music correspondent, Mark Savage. So Mark, today we're going to be talking about Kanye West, who's been barred by the UK government from coming here. He was supposed to headline a music festival in London. Tell us what's happened.
So Kanye West is one of the most influential and groundbreaking artists of the last 25 years. And at the moment, he's in what you could call a rehabilitation tour. He has spent half a decade making some really controversial statements, racist statements, antisemitic statements. He released a song called Heil Hitler. He sold T-shirts with the swastika on them. And in January, just ahead of the release of a new album, he took out a full-page advert in the Wall Street Journal. And he said that he was incredibly sorry for all the hurt that he'd caused, that he had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, that he had brain damage from a car accident that he was in 2002, and that he had stopped taking his medication for some of the conditions he has. And that had caused him to essentially say things that he didn't mean. And obviously people who live with someone with mental health issues, particularly bipolar disorder, know that you can start to say incredibly offensive and aggressive things that alienate lots of people around you. He says he's doing the work to come back from that mindset, to put himself back on track. And last week, he announced that he was going to be playing 3 nights, headlining all 3 nights of this massive festival in London called Wireless. 150,000 people will go there over the course of a weekend in July. Instantly, there was criticism of the decision to book Kanye in particular and bring him to the UK. Obviously, Jewish communities in London felt they hadn't been consulted about this and were worried about the fallout from it. There were MPs who accused the festival of putting a fig leaf over the statements that he'd made in the past and trying to excuse him. Today, the government have announced that he is not going to be allowed to enter the country. In a statement, the Home Office said that Kanye West had made an application to travel to the UK yesterday, that's Monday, via an electronic travel authorisation. The government have blocked his permission to travel and he does not hold a valid ETA. The decision was made on the grounds that his presence would not be conducive to the public good.
Mark, the organiser of the Wireless Festival, told the BBC he believes in forgiveness, giving people a second chance, but it's not up to the music industry to decide who can appear and what they can say.
No, and certainly, in this case, it is the government's decision that Kanye West coming to the UK would not be for the public good. They're obviously worried about unrest around the festival and the potential impact, particularly at a time when anti-Semitic attacks are on the rise, particularly in London, but throughout the UK. The head of Festival Republic, which is the promoter that puts on the Wireless Festival, he's a man called Melvin Benn. His point was slightly different. He's someone that has experience of mental health. He said to the BBC he'd lived with someone with severe mental health problems for more than a decade. And he said it's not something that disappears overnight. People suffer psychotic behaviour and bipolar behaviour for many, many years, and you have to take that into account. The question of giving Kanye West a second chance, though, is slightly disingenuous because he's had a second chance and a third chance. And on several occasions, he has doubled down and gone back to behaviour that, has caused people a lot of distress and has been, widely criticised and condemned. So you can see why the government have made this decision, even though it may disappoint a great number of fans who were hoping to see Kanye perform for the first time in 11 years in the UK.
What has he been saying?
He updated that open letter that he published in January to say that he was aware of the conversations around the Wireless Festival and that he knew that words were not enough to make up for it, that he wanted to meet with Jewish groups and Jewish leaders in London and to try and bring a concert that would promote unity and peace when he does come to the UK. A lot of groups responded to that saying they were willing to meet him, but only on the condition that he pulled out of the festival. Those comments now, of course, don't mean anything because he's not coming at all.
And tell us more about what the Jewish community said, because their view was that if he'd made these comments about black people or Muslims or LGBTQ people, there would have been no argument over it.
I think one of the big problems for the Jewish community and fans in general of Kanye West is that he has apologised for these comments before and then backtracked and doubled down on these hateful views that he now says he no longer holds. There was a period where he appeared on a podcast hosted by the conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. He was wearing a black hooded costume that a lot of people took to be representative of the Ku Klux Klan. He said that he admired Hitler and that he had a lot of good ideas and had contributed things to society. And he apologised for those, but then a year after that turned round and released this song called Heil Hitler. There was another song that was leaked that was called Gas Chamber. These are things that are very, very difficult to stomach. And there are leaders within the Jewish community who are saying, well, he wasn't sincere the first time around. What's to guarantee that he will be this time around? And if this is down to a mental illness, as he says it is, if he stops taking his meds or things slip, what might he say on stage at the Wireless Festival in London when he has 2 hours to talk to the public for 3 nights in a row? Now, the organisers of the festival, before his permission to travel was rescinded, said that they would have their hands on the microphone controls throughout the show. And if he ever veered off script, if he ever said anything offensive, the show would immediately be cut. And they do have experience of doing that in the past.
We should say, though, he's just appeared in the US, hasn't he?
Yes, he played 2 nights in Los Angeles. This is around the release of his new album, his 12th album, Bully. And he sold out the SoFi Stadium. He played to 90,000 people. It was a largely controversy-free show. He appeared on top of a giant semicircular dome representing the Earth. He was tethered to it by wires. And he largely played old hits, the stuff that people wanted to hear, the stuff from before the controversy. He brought out special guests, including the rapper Travis Scott and the soul singer and rapper Lauryn Hill. And it was largely controversy-free. He made one small comment where he said he was going to put the past behind him. There are a few lyrics on the new album where he says similar things. And what's interesting there is that there are all these people who still want to hear him, who are willing to put aside the things he has said in the past and to celebrate the music that he's made, at the start of his career in particular, with massive hits like Gold Digger and Stronger and Through the Wire.
What do you think might be the ramifications of this huge political and cultural row, and indeed the UK's decision? Does it in some ways make him more attractive to some people, that, there's no such thing as bad publicity?
I mean, at the time we're speaking, it's only about an hour since it was announced that the government have rescinded his permission to travel. There are already people on social media who have bought tickets for this concert who are furious and say that the government is being too censorious. There are likewise people who fully support what the government has done in this situation. And, it's not the first time that performers have been banned from the UK because of words or actions that they've taken. Tyler, the Creator, who was due to headline the Lovebox Festival, had his visa revoked over previous homophobic comments he had made. The singer Chris Brown also had his visa revoked in 2010 after the physical abuse that he dealt out to his then girlfriend Rihanna. But after a period of rehabilitation, he was allowed back last year and he sold out multiple concerts in the UK. So there is a sense that fans are willing to overlook the crimes and misdemeanours of their favourite artists if the music still moves them in some way.
So we've just heard that actually this music festival has been cancelled. I mean, what will be the impact of that?
I mean, it's a big impact for Festival Republic, the company that puts on Wireless Festival, because they will have already spent a large amount of money, putting in place all of the contracts and everything else. They've sold tickets. Those are going to have to be refunded. We don't know what was in the contract with Kanye, but often the artist gets paid even if the festival gets cancelled. So that is a big impact. In terms of the UK economy, live music is worth more than £10 billion a year. So losing a major festival like this will dent that. And obviously there are thousands of people who work at these events that will have been booked in advance. Security guards, the people who do the food trucks and run the bars, the stage managers, everybody else. So there's an impact in that sense. For the music industry in general, the UK has a very, very healthy festival season. We don't have Glastonbury this year, but there are still dozens more. Transmit, Reading and Leeds, Latitude, they're all still going ahead.
Mark Savage, thank you.
Thank you.
That was the BBC's music correspondent, Mark Savage. I'm Valerie Sanderson. If you want to hear more from the Global News Podcast, just click the link below. But thank you for watching and for listening. Bye for now.